Okay, so greetings, everyone. Are there any questions? Go ahead and open the floor for any questions you may have. Okay, go ahead, Jack, as your hand is raised.
Hello. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay, great. I was wondering, about something you said, Dwayne, like 2 weeks ago. I think you said it'd be nice if we could get like news reports from the other realms instead of this realm. Is it possible when you practice astral projection and you go to another realm, that you know, does it function the way this realm does? That even though I've never been to Japan, I can get the news from there. You can. There is news circulates among more than one people. Is it possible? Is there news like on this realm? Do you know what I mean?
You asking me or Nehemiah?
Yeah, but or both of you, or
Oh.
is there like a newspaper, or is it? Can you on the other realms the same as this realm? Is there other elected leaders? Are there you know are there organizations? Is there a news? Is there because
Um, there on the very basic realms, you may find similar stuff like that. It's not exactly. Um, the higher you go, the less type of activity uh, similar to this realm. The lower you go, the more activity similar to this. In fact, most of the type of activity on the lower or basic realms started there and ended up here.
really.
And on the higher realms, it's totally different. On the higher realms, it's sort of like how can I explain it? Do you have any psychic sense or psychic
No.
visions and stuff? You have nothing like that happen to you? Well, most people do. You might have it and don't realize it, but most people that psychically they they have this like if somebody close to you die or
Okay.
getting ready to die. Uh, Normally, when you come in between the realms, like when you're waking up in the morning or just before you go to sleep, you tune in to the inner realms and you get messages, like almost like news reports that so and so is about to die or so and so died or whatever, And you wake up, if it's in the morning, you wake up and say, well, let me call them because I just got a message that they died.
Hmm.
And you call and they say, yes, they just died. Or you call and they say, yes, they in a coma or they sick or something like that. On the other realms, you learn that stuff like that. It's the mental, there's a greater mental flow of communication. So let's say somebody like Whitney Houston died on this plane. Several planes of existence know that she died because it's a mental internet or something, that you just know. So the messages come to you on through telepathy, almost like on the wind or something like that. So the greater detail, if you want greater detail, you got to be able to focus in on it, or or they have different instruments where they can look and see the greater detail. But it's on the etheric or astral wavelength that you know. You never had someone pass and all of a sudden you knew before anyone told you?
Not that I can remember. But,
I'm sure a lot of people have had that happen to them.
yeah.
You know, but that's a normal event.
But I just wonder, like, more about the like the astral realms, for example. Say, so North Korea is completely different to America, but it has they have a newspaper, they have an army, elected leaders. You know, so I could go to North Korea and I could come back and tell you, you know, the news today was this and this and this.
Yeah, it's similar like that on the lower realms, yes.
So are you able to read the newspaper there, or is there news going on in there? Is there a leader, elected leaders, and you know that sort of?
I don't know if you could say elected. Well, for certain regions, there are people that take leadership, and yes, but as you go up, it becomes more structured. As you go down, it becomes more. What's the word I'm looking for? Feudal.
Feudal, okay.
You know, dictatorship, kind of like. You know.
Okay.
But the devices and instruments, their science is greater than what we have here. Even on the lower astral realms.
Okay.
You know, their science, their technology is greater than what we have.
So they're aware of other realms, so they're aware of the physical, or is it like this realm that only the psychic people are aware of the other realms? On the other realms, not everyone is aware of it.
No, they are aware, unless the only way they're not aware, unless they created some type of splendor in their brain. Maybe on the lower astral realms, they're not aware. They're not fully aware. They are aware, but not fully aware. But most of the population is aware of the gross physical planes and the other subtle planes, maybe right above them or below them. So they are. Remember, although the astral body might be an emotional body, it's still a risen body from the gross body.
Yeah.
You understand?
So the memory is not reset upon the rebirth on the astral planes.
They don't remember everything about this plane. As you go down, they don't remember everything. They remember their memory is spotted. As you go up, they do remember. They remember more than they have more than a spotted memory, But their intention and focus is on that particular realm and that existence. But this realm becomes like a dream or comes like a spotted memory, on the more basic realms. On the higher realms, yes, they can tap into the subconscious and they remember. But on the basic and lower realms, it's spotted. You remember some, you don't remember all. You remember traces, and you remember relationships, but it's not as focused as it is there on that particular realm.
So when you pass over, do your loved ones are waiting for you, though? They remember you?
Some who remember you, they might be there waiting for you. And some of them some of them have moved on and just doing their own thing.
Mm-hmm.
Not all your loved ones are sitting there waiting for you. It's not like a lot of the books say it is.
Okay.
You may have people that you was close to for maybe several lifetimes. that's still on the astral realms that haven't been reborn, they might be waiting for you. But some of them might be waiting for you. I mean, you know, once you get ready to transit. Not saying that they're waiting for you all the time. When it comes time for you to transition, they might rush to that place to help you transition, to make sure the transition is all right.
And is it based on country and by language as well? Because, you know,
Is it based on what?
Country and language, you know,
No.
I'm in.
No, it's not.
Not like that.
It's telepathy. The language doesn't really matter at that point.
Okay.
Although you have a kinship to a particular language when you come back to the gross physical plane. I think a lot of times when people talk about dyslexia or things like that, or slight dyslexia, full dyslexia, is because maybe that person lived in a foreign country for maybe 10 lifetimes or 5 lifetimes. And now when they come to the new country, they have to adjust their brain to working with the language and the writing and all of that.
Makes sense, yeah.
You know what I mean? So I know that happened. Like maybe in the East, they read from right to left. In the West, they read from left to right. So if you lived in the East for many lifetimes, coming to the West is difficult it takes time to train your mind to start reading from left to right instead of right to left.
Yeah, that makes so much sense. Well, a lot of these things are explained when you explain reincarnation. Like, if somebody is gay, does that automatically mean they were the opposite sex in the previous life?
Not necessarily.
It's not simple.
And maybe in some cases, not in all cases. It just might be the lesson they need to learn, or it might be it might be something they tuck on and got a fixation to it, and now they have to work their way out of that fixation. There's nothing terrible, evil about it. It's just they just got to work their way out of that fixation. It's just like people get a fixation for drinking or for overeating or just too much sex, and they have to work their way out of that fixation. It's just the lessons they need to learn. They need to learn a way to gain control over that, because the reaction from doing what they're doing may give them a return factor that they can't get anywhere else. So they find themselves fixed in that until they can overcome that,
Sure, because we are all both sexes, and
because we can be born male, female, or male, female, or female, male, so it's just a vehicle that we're working out of.
Okay. So we're reborn on the astral realm. We're reincarnated twice. Reborn on the astral in the realm that most fits our desires, and then we go off there to burn through our desires as quickly as possible, and then we're reborn on the physical because we have these other desires. So it's this constant burning up of.
It's a constant, yeah. You reincarnate to the physical plane for a while, then you reincarnate on the subtle planes for a while, and then you reincarnate on the physical planes for a while. Sometimes you may reincarnate on the subtle planes multiple times.
Right.
So like you die on the physical plane and then you go to the subtle planes, and you may have to be reincarnated on the subtle planes maybe 2 or 3 times before you're reborn on the physical plane. You know, and it all has to do with your progress, either your forward progress or your backward progress. You know, if you're on the planes and you become more evil to yourself and the people around you, you may fall to a lower plane.
Sure.
Or if you become more spiritually inclined and more progressive in your thinking, and your intelligence elevate, you may go to a higher plane. So you're reborn on a higher plane, and you live out your time there. So, but then you come to a point where you might have to go to the gross physical plane in order to move. To place greater limitations on yourself so that you can move even higher than where you were before. So, but it's always either you're reincarnating on the gross or the subtle planes.
Okay, so it's all about this burning up and this weight. So because I've heard you say that mind this physical mind has a weight. If you had the sophisticated enough equipment, you can even weigh mind. And you said that everything, the astral body is physical. That even the soul has a physical.
Yes, all is physical. Yes.
So is karma also physical?
Karma is a pressure. Karma is a framework of pressure, which pushes you, like Dr. George King said, he gave one of the best definitions for it. I heard it a long time. It's pressure towards conformity. And what it does, it places the right pressure on your life, on your existence, in order to push you towards conforming, towards creating an action that will create another reaction, and then another action to create another reaction, in order to move you forward or backwards, wherever you need to go, in order to learn your lessons, in order to achieve your goals in life.
But is it possible to measure, can you measure this karma? Does it have a weight, or is putting this pressure on you?
I don't know if you'd say it has a weight, but it has it creates, I guess it helps create the weight or the pressure or the obstruction or the pressure. When you build up pressure on something, it does scientifically, it has a weight. It gains weight because density is created. So I'm sure it's a component that help bring weight, they help bring about weight or heaviness or lightness or whatever.
But do you think like the Great White Brotherhood could measure, our individual karma in units, in some form of units, and that?
Well, we're told that the spiritual hierarchy of Earth has a dossier on all humanoid life on this Earth. So and I'm sure they track. They track all humanoid life on Earth because of our situation,
Because when we say mantra a certain amount of times, we get the aura to spin and we throw off, and we can accelerate our karma. So that there must be these sort of units of, it must be yes, I guess someone must be, because you say some great masters can look at you and see your karma coming into fruition or this and that. So
Look, you got to think the greatest master on earth is the Mother Earth.
Right.
Right? So how do we exist? We exist because of the Mother Earth. The great teachers tell us that we live and exist by the grace of what?
God.
You know, of God. Our immediate God is the earth and the sun. Okay, so we live and breathe and have our existence because of, number one, the earth, number two, the moon, number three, the sun. And it could be the exact opposite. It could be the sun, number one, the moon, number two, and the earth, number three. But we live and exist because of these gods. And I know people don't like to hear that. They're not the God, but they are a living aspect of God. God uses the sun, the moon, and the earth in order to transmit the right conditions to allow us to exist on several planes of existence. So because of that, because of these galactic type consciousness, they measure every drop of energy that's given to us is accounted for. And then you have these cosmic beings that have went through the life cycles of this earth that become the spiritual hierarchy of the earth, and they can tap into this Akashic record and look at you know, the files of you, your family, your friends, the whole world.
Yeah.
You know, because why? Because the Akashic record records everything, and everything has to be accounted for. Before you ascend off of this earth, you have to transmute all the negative karma that you have placed into this atmosphere. You know, you have to burn all that up. The central location of burning that up is you. It's your auric field. Because your auric field is linked to everything, every spot you ever existed, your auric field has a link to that. You know, so you can't get away from it. And as you grow in your existence, then you raise the vibrations of everything that you ever touched, everything that you ever came across. In one of the cosmic voices of their society, they speak of a Black musician that realized this on the lower astral realms, that realized this, and he created a machine to try to trace the devic residue left behind by various people that live, great people, common people, small people, and he was able to tap into this energy and then use it in a selfish or evil way. And this exists. It really exists. And of course, scientists today can monitor the outer layers of this auric body and see the display of energies from one state of mind to the next state of mind. So of course, the Mother Earth, the moon, the sun, and the spiritual hierarchy of this earth can also do the same thing. This is not hard to do for them.
So when, because the Mother Earth has taken on some of our karma, and I remember the later stages of Dr. King's life, he was taking on a lot of karma. So when they're taking on karma, is that some sort of physical process if everything is physical?
I mean, it means that they it means that they have positioned themselves between you and the bow and arrow. In other words,
Okay.
it's a simple terminology. You know, when they say they've taken on the karma.
They haven't physically sucked out of your aura this.
No. You have to still deal with that. You have to, you know, they hold up they stop you from being a target for a period, but you will be a target later, you know, unless you evolve, unless you develop yourself.
So when someone, because our race has been going on for a long time, you know, way back before, like Maldak, and how far do you think, well, how many people do you estimate per year achieve ascension, and how many people how far could they have gone in terms of
I have no idea.
But how far do you think they could have gone in terms of the 9 freedoms? And would they, if they were now a lower lord of Saturn, is that like help the negative karma of mankind, that they pull with us?
Well, I have no idea, but I know something had to happen to allow us to be graced by the great masters that have came to this earth. So we're linked to the cosmic masters in some type of way. But because we know we would not have had the Lord Sri Krishna that came here, we would not have had Jesus come here, Laose, Sankachara, Ramakrishna, even Moses, you know, Elijah. We would not have had these great masters to come to earth to help guide us and put us back on the track if someone didn't advance to the level to make the right karmic manipulations to allow these great ones to enter the human life cycle to assist us.
So we have something to be grateful for. We just don't know who.
Yeah. So you know, and it could be a factor that they came here too because they came to protect the Mother Earth from us.
Yeah. Okay. Interesting.
It's not as simple as you may think it is, you know.
Sure. I mean, it's all, you know, the whole science of karma and I didn't even know about it a year ago. So, you know, I'm still, it's a big science though. Well, thank you very much. Very helpful.
No problem.
Lawrence, do you have a question?
Oh, yes, I do. They say that I've heard Dr. George King say that there's 2 polarities to a true statement. Like, what does that mean?
And under what contents he said that?
I don't remember.
What
all I remember is he said that it was
what lecture tape? What lecture tape?
I don't remember, but when I find out, I will ask it again.
Yeah, I mean, in anything, understanding anything, that there's 2 polarities in anything. You understand?
Okay.
In other words, throughout all nature, especially in our existence, you have a positive and you have a negative. And those are the polarities. You have a high, you have a low, You have a solid, and you have a liquid. You know, you have air and you have ether. You know, you have coal and you have fire. There's always two polarities.
Right.
In everything, and that's the mystic science behind all things. You know, so if you want to, let's say, was not talked about a lot, if a great cosmic being like Jesus or Moses or Elijah or Sri Krishna come here to Earth, they come here as male and female, or female male, or male female. See, so we may not know of the opposite person that come here, but in most cases they either come, you know, they come with both so-called polarities. And as you develop yourself spiritually, if you are male, you begin to be able to equalize and pull on the female energy within you as well. And these are the things that help you to grow spiritually. So that's why I say I need to know the contents on which he was talking, because I mean, you could write a book about that.
Okay. What do you mean? What would it look like for a male to begin to develop his female attributes, or what you were just saying?
Jesus demonstrated a tremendous love for the world, and an unselfish type love. You find females can do that quicker and faster than males. Mm-hmm. Males are usually centered on themselves and their immediate surrounding. But a female can see and feel love for everything around her without the personal, attachment. She's more compassionate. She's more psychic in nature. You know, she handles mental energy far better than a male does. But when a man grows spiritually, he can tap into that female energy, that mother type, that divine mother type energy. You know, the earth is a female entity. You know, and so this earth exhibits that type of energy. And as we grow and pull on the Kundalini energy that the Mother Earth gave us, we feel our existence with this divine mother type energy, this female energy, which allows us to become more spiritual in our mind and in our actions. Does that explain it a little bit to you?
Yes, it does.
Okay.
Thank you.
Another question saying, would you say that everyone has a particular God that we are born under or have next to us?
Not really. I mean, some people subscribe to that. I really don't. Because the gods that we know are the gods that we are. You know, so we are solidified sunlight. We are we have a mental configuration that's created by the moon for this particular Earth. And then we have gross and subtle and etheric bodies just given to us by the Earth. So, you know, we made in the image of God or gods. So, now we, some of them come with this zodiac sign. We fall under certain zodiac signs, which is nothing more than energy configurations at that particular time by the gods of this solar system and galaxy, which made it possible for our introduction into either astral realm or a physical realm, a gross physical realm. But I mean, that's not saying that we subject to that. It's only a vibrational pattern of energy that we can pull on throughout our cycle of existence. I hope that answers your question.
Are there any additional questions? Okay, Veronica, I see your hand is raised. Go ahead and ask your question.
Thank you. Good morning. I'm in California, but my question was just back when you were talking about polarities, and just what came to my mind, are we to reconcile the polarities because we have that positive and negative energy? Is it a purpose for us to come to some type of balance?
I mean, yeah, I guess you could say that because that's what you're doing all the time. When you look at every yoga science, that's given to us is about creating a balance, and you not only create a balance through various systems of yoga. One of the primary yogas is pranayama, which is a part of every yoga, or at least of the 12 major yogas that's given to us. And in that, it shows where you have where we have an energy. One of the five major pranas within the body, called apana, and then prana. Apana is within the rises from the Muladhara chakra, the base chakra, and it comes all the way up to the heart chakra, then springs back down. And the prana energy comes from the heart chakra. It slightly comes up and then it swings down to the apana region, the Muladhara region, then springs back up to the heart chakra. Now, in order for you to become an adept, you must balance those two energies. You must control them according to the mystic teachings. You must bring them together and unify them because they're always springing away from each other. And this is the theme that hinders our spiritual development, our forward movement. But once we begin to balance these pranas, then we can begin to raise our consciousness, grab control over the Kundalini power within the Gnostic streams or lines of force, and then push them in one direction and and be able to open the major chakras and become enlightened and wisdom, and be able to tap into the higher realms of consciousness and energy. But you must balance those two pranas, because the other pranas, all the other pranas, which is Vyana, Samana, and Udana, they already exist in those regions that the apana and prana is springing through, is bouncing back and forth through. So once you control those two, you control all five. And that's one of the polarities that that we have to balance in order to balance all.
Thank you. And then, yeah, I was taking notes as I'm listening to. Just one other thing, what I'm thinking about is just when it comes to energy, I know, like, let's say if I'm having not a great day, not sure it's just that simple, but just like the energy of love, and you recognize it, you feel it. At that time, would it be something that you should do to shift that energy and maybe use that energy because you have it, and cause it to go in an area, if you're talking about polarities, in an area that maybe may need to balance out, or may have like a negative energy near you, on you, thinking, whatever it may be? Is that something that we should be doing, like recognizing our state and then moving that energy into a different position?
The best way, when you have feelings like that, the best thing to do is to take a moment and pray for the world.
Okay.
And when you send that energy out to the world, you create a greater balance within yourself than you can ever dream of. So because if you think about it, every advanced consciousness in the universe give of themselves 24/7. The earth is the logos of the earth is the God that we touch every day when we stand up. You know, the sun is the God that we feel every day when the sun rises. The moon is the God that we feel 24/7, because the moon creates the mental realms of this earth that allow us to experience all the realms of existence. So what do they do? What do these great gods do? They give of themselves. They are constant service. So once we learn to in our sparing in our sparing moments and in our every moment, to take a minute and say, I send this energy to the world to help lift the minds and heal the bodies of everyone on earth, regardless of who they are, then we link ourselves with these great deities. And we begin to experience and to move towards their higher consciousness. You know, but what we fail to do so many times is that we judge people, we classify people, we don't think like that. We just want to send energy to our loved ones and the people we know. But when you just do this impersonal type love, because love really exists on an impersonal level. The higher love, the indestructible love, is totally impersonal love. It's the love that the sun gives, the earth gives, the moon gives, the galaxy gives. They give of themselves. So when you feeling that you have an extra energy, give it away. And then you'll notice that you'll have more and more extra energy.
Thank you.
Okay, any further questions? So praying for people who you don't know is a good way to pray. Yes, that's true, Beatrice. And also, really quick, I just wanted to encourage everyone to take everything you hear from Nehemiah and really think about it, really try and better take it into the silence. If you know how to go into the silence, then that's a very good practice to have. But really take some of the, especially the phrases he repeats very often, and just really mull over it, think about it, along with studying and practicing. I know one example for me, Nehemiah constantly says, we live by the grace of the gods, or God, live by the grace of God. And that was something I had to really think about before I could understand it. And going back to a lot of the questions Jack was asking, the Mother Earth is our closest aspect to God that we are able to come in contact with. And I really wanted to understand, okay, well, what does that mean by we live by the grace of the Mother Earth, of this God? And as I was walking to class one day, the simple action of walking kind of sparked an inspiration in me, in that if you look at the simple and basic physics of walking, for example, each step we take, what is happening? There's an interchange of forces. We exert a force on the ground, on the earth, and the earth exerts an equal and opposite force back onto us, and that allows us to propel ourselves forward. But what if that balance wasn't even? What if we exerted a greater force on the earth than what the exerts back on us, then our foot would, in a sense, crash through the floor. Or if it's the other way, if the earth exerted a greater force on us than we take a step, then we would be propelled into the air. So there is that delicate balance that we kind of take for granted, but is a small example of that grace that's allowed to us. But we can take it even further. Every element within our bodies is from the earth, or is located in the earth. Our very physical bodies is built out of the material of the earth. And we use those bodies to continue to gain more experience and to allow our level of consciousness to operate on this plane. And we sustain this body through ingesting the vegetation that comes from the earth, either directly or indirectly through animals. The water that we ingest that maintains our consciousness in these bodies comes from the earth. Even the very act of breathing, for example, how do we breathe? Like, we really thought about that. How do we breathe? Well, when we inhale, it's not that we're pulling air into our lungs. It's that we are creating lower pressure. When we expand our diaphragm, we're creating lower pressure in our lungs than the atmospheric pressure around us. And so the atmosphere, or the earth, pushes air into our lungs when we inhale. And when we exhale, we're creating more pressure in our lungs than the pressure in the atmosphere. So we exhale and push air back out to the earth. So the very act of breathing is a grace of God. The Mother Earth pushes air into our lungs, and that allows us to maintain consciousness in our bodies. The very Kundalini that animates our bodies comes from the Mother Earth. So when you really think about these things, we live by the grace of the God, that's what that means, and so much more. So I would implore everyone to take these teachings, to take the statements that Nehemiah gives us, that Dr. King gives us, that masters have laid down for us in the teachings, and really think about them. Really try and take them in your mind and just ask yourself, what does it mean? What does it mean? What does it mean for me? And this knowledge will continue to unravel and open itself up to you. Okay, so any other questions? Okay, if there are no questions at this time, at this right now, then we'll switch to our handout. So in our previous class, previous open discussion, we started with this karmic framework of creation handout, which is in the shared folder. We looked at the framework of karma throughout creation and went into how these laws are implemented from the initial spoken vak to our current state of conscious operation. We looked at how all the actions fall into the laws of karma, that every action made is restricted and limited by this divine law of karma. And we also looked back at a other diagram that goes into much more detail in that creative action, specifically the modification of the Shakti power. And so today we'll continue on and try to understand more about how karma works, what karma is, and what it means for each and every single one of us. We looked at how karma is implemented from the absolute through the lords of creation, the galaxy, the central suns of galaxy, lords of karma, the sun, the planets, earth, moons, mineral, plant, animal, and human life, and the interconnectedness of all of that. And so today we're actually going to go into the second page entitled The Basic Laws of Karma. Let me get the chat up so I can see. Is everyone able to see the diagram clearly? Do I need to make it bigger or?
Yes.
Okay. Okay, so basic laws of karma. Karma means actions. All actions consist of good, bad, and a mixture of both. Now, Nimai, in the past, you said that the way of looking at things as good and bad, it's really something that we do because of our level of consciousness. But on a grander scale, on a cosmic scale, is there a good, bad, or good and evil?
I would say not really, and then yes, it is, and then it isn't, because everything that happens to us is either action or reaction, and that action and reaction creates the proper environment to induce the proper pressure on us in order to move us forward. You know, so when we say something's evil, we say that with a great, in most cases, with a great lack of understanding.
So what do you mean by a lack of understanding?
meaning that we don't understand the laws of karma and the pressure that needs to be placed there, and that this was created because of that person or group of persons. And the only way it exists is because we allow it to exist. If we see, know, and understand God as we claim we do. So, it's not, it's not that, we create our own environment. And the things that happen to us because we contributed to that thing existing. You understand?
Yes, I understand.
Yeah.
So God does not differentiate between good and evil.
No.
Or karma doesn't differentiate good and evil. It's a particular reaction that's invoked by a specific action. And it's how we perceive that reaction that we label it good or bad.
Right. It's like things that might be bad in one climate might be good in another climate. So is it bad or is it good? So, you have to think about it like that. It's like the incident when they were the British anthropologists and sociologists and the American Christian fellowships went down to Grenada. And the incident I told you about before, and they found a group of people living in the hills, and the woman was walking bare chest. And they said, "Oh, this is a terrible thing." Saying, and they found out that it wasn't a terrible thing. It was the right thing for them to do. It might be terrible in certain climates, or bad in certain climates, but it was right in that climate. The same way when they went to Somalia and Northern Africa, and they tried to tell the people, "You got to stop. You got to stop moving from one area to the next. Every 2 or 3 years, you got to settle and plant your feet here and build a foundation and grow whatever." And the people knew what they was doing because they had not developed the type of technology within their society to feed all the people that they needed to feed. So they had to move from one area to the next in order to follow the better climate. So it's, good and bad is where you are. Not saying that that in our understanding that there's something that's not bad. There is bad, and yet there isn't bad. And there is good, and yet there isn't good. So we have to look at it from that perspective.
So you're going to say karma equals action and reaction, and it is opposite but equal.
Right.
And I like that you have action and reaction, and also before they say all actions is karma. So a lot of times we look at karma as only a reaction, with it, what goes around comes around, or expressions like that. But we sometimes we don't realize that that first action is also karma. And then you go on further to say all actions are either white magic, which means all right actions, black magic, all wrong actions, or gray magic, a mixture of right and wrong actions. Now, as earlier we said, okay, God doesn't differentiate between good and bad, right, good and bad and evil. But then we go on to say right actions is white magic and wrong actions is black magic. So how do we know the difference between all right actions and all wrong actions?
How do we know what?
The
What do you
difference
say?
between taking all right action or taking all wrong actions, or if a specific action is right or wrong.
Well, and see, and then that's subjective too, in a sense. And then I use a poor choice of words too when I wrote that 15 years ago. But all right actions for where you are on the particular realm of existence or mental place where you are, you see the results that you was trying to get to. If I had an ingredient to bake a cake, a particular cake, and I followed all right actions in order to produce that cake, then that was all right actions, and it produced the result that I wanted. And then, in other words, if I wanted to create a very impactful negative action, and I listed I wrote down the ingredients or steps to bring that about. That's all bad actions that brought about this negative type karma, this impactful negative type karma. Then if I had something that's going to be impactful to people, to good and bad, or a mixture of good and bad, that's going to impact, let's say, half of the people in a negative way and half the people in a positive way, that's gray actions. So that's the difference that that I was trying to describe there.
Okay. Then you go on further to talk about, it's the intention, right? So the
Right.
intention describes the type of power behind any action. It's good intention sets in motion good karma, and then bad intention sets in motion bad karma. Now it's an expression that says, the road to hell is paved in good intentions.
Right.
So what is there any truth to that?
And that's very true. Yeah.
But yet good intention sets in motion good karma. So how could that good intention lead to one's downfall?
Because enlightenment means predetermining your actions. So before you look forward to creating a series of actions, you need to predetermine those actions to see if your intentions are correct. Because people had good intentions with the Flint water system. They were going to save some money. But what do? They end up putting lead in the water, because they pushed this water through old pipes and just did not do the proper studies to see if that would be right for them to take the water from one system instead of taking it from the system they was taking it from for years with no negative effect.
Mm-hmm.
So they had good intentions, but it produced all the wrong results.
So then if it's if it's the results that determine whether it is a good or bad intention, does that mean it's the ends justify the means?
Well, no, I mean, you gotta understand, it's the intentions has a lot to do with it, but it's also predetermining, intentions with enlightenment. I can get a so-called magical spell, have all the right intentions, and go out there and do all my ritual, and nothing happens. Nothing that I can see.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
But I had all the right intentions. But if you predetermine your actions with substance information and calculation, that's enlightenment, because you can predetermine your destiny and your results.
So say, for example, my intention or my goal is to develop my psychic faculties, my psychic ability. Mm-hmm. I have, I can choose to do that through developing my concentration and contemplation through Raja Yoga, or I can choose to do that through drugs. One is a white magical action, the other is a black magical action. But in a sense, they will develop, at least on some basic level, the same results.
Yeah, but the results will be the residue that's left behind. And, using certain drugs to induce psychic awareness has a real negative impact on the physical and subtle bodies and auric bodies, sometimes for lifetimes. For several lives, you'll be cleaning that up with those psychedelic type drugs.
Right.
So now the difference, if you did the pranayama and the yoga and all of that, it's been balanced to bring about positive results, as long as you have the right intentions behind why you're doing that. Are you doing it to become a greater server, or to have a greater impact, a positive impact on people's lives? Then what you're doing is good. If you just want to become powerful, then what you're doing is not so good.
Right. Mm-hmm. So like you're saying, enlightenment takes all of that into account and says, okay,
right.
This is the goal this is the goal I want to accomplish. The best way to accomplish that is this particular path, and to follow that path and to finish whatever you start.
Right.
So let's look on the left-hand side of this diagram, and there's a table here that kind of breaks down the difference between basic man and right karmic action. It starts out with saying karma says every action equals some good actions and some bad actions. Now, basic man, when trying to mobilize every good action, has a higher percentage of good actions over and a lower percentage of bad actions. And then you say basic man again, with every bad actions equals a higher percentage of bad actions and a lower percentage of good actions. I don't know if you meant to say that both of those are basic men or.
Yeah, yeah.
Oh, okay. So then what's the difference between those two types of basic men?
He's giving you an example because we're never doing all right actions and all bad actions. We have a mixture of both. In other words. So
But a person with a higher percentage of good actions versus a person with a higher percentage of both of bad actions, they wouldn't necessarily be on the same level. They would be.
they might. It depends on it's hard to determine, but they still basic man because they haven't committed themselves to living a particular life, to giving up certain things. The things that bring you to above basic man, if you have predetermined all your actions or predetermined a great percentage of your actions and say, I'm going to make the sacrifice not to do X, Y, Z. I'm going to make the sacrifice, in my life, not to be a burden on society, in this way or that way or whatever. Spiritually, I mean, in society. So when you find that, and you find that you can carve and mold your environment to what you want it to be. Does that make sense?
So carve and mold your environment to what you want to be. So in other words, you would take on certain actions to create what you want around you, not just within, but without as well.
You would give up. You'll make the sacrifice to do that. It's just like a student graduated from high school. They make the sacrifice to go to get their bachelor's, to get their master's, to get their doctors, and now they're in a position where they have the resources to mold their life into what they want them to do. Or you have another student who say, okay, I'm going to make the sacrifice to study a particular craftsmanship or business model, and I'm going to work on this until I create it. And then they become very successful at that, and then they can mold and shape their lives the way they want to mold and shape their lives. So I mean, that's the difference. The same way a yogi who comes in and say, I'm going to practice 8 to 10 hours of yoga a day for 10, 15 years, and I'm going to master this, and I'm going to gain a certain type of enlightenment, and then I'm going to teach the world. It's the same thing. So you make the sacrifice, you give up something in order to gain something higher.
Okay, I have a question here. Can you give us an example of using laws against laws? Like rising above rhythm, how do we avoid the positive and negative emotional pendulum swings or patterns and stay centered?
Everybody always go back to that. You got to go back to the 8 limbs of yoga. The first limb of yoga is Yama. The second is niyama. Yama means control your thoughts and actions. So you must develop techniques to control your thoughts and actions. Your thoughts and actions drive any type of emotions or any type of situations you may find yourself in. Then Nayama is to observe God in everything. You know, realize that you live by the grace of God, and that every action that you do has a reflection on the whole. So therefore, you must be responsible for every action that you do. So that's the go back to the 8 limbs of yoga chart.
Okay. Then you go on further here to say right karmic action is action without intention for rewards. That equals the highest percentage of good actions karmically plus a 0% of bad actions karmically. So you mentioned earlier that, at least for us on this level, no one does 100% good actions. So then, is what you're describing here an enlightened person who takes the highest percentage of good actions karmically and almost 0% of bad actions?
Yeah, because it's impersonal. When you're not looking for reward, it becomes impersonal. It becomes unselfish. It becomes selfless. It's like when the sun rises on all life forms on earth. When the sun sets on all life forms on earth. So when the moon that gives its reflective mental energies and shadows of mental power, it gives it to everyone, irrespective of who they are, from the insect kingdom to the human kingdom. So, you know, it's a selfless type energy, a selfless type service.
So if at our level of evolution, if we were to live an entirely selfless life, what would that look like? Or would that even be possible?
I have no idea. It'll be something better than now, than us, than what we're doing.
So my mind is brought to the act of healing, or giving service through healing and teaching, but specifically in healing. When we perform contact healing or even remote healing, or give someone healing with no intention of reward, just wanting to help the patient, that is an example of selfless service. But not every patient we attempt to heal will be healed, at least at that time, or by or through us.
Right. It's
So
the common pattern. It's the common pattern, remember?
correct. So that's what I was trying to get to. So it is the karma of the individual that determines whether or not they can be healed. Because you and the master and Dr. King have said in the past, every disease can be healed, can be cured, but not every patient can be healed. So even though we're taking on this, highly percentage of good action in giving healing to someone, does that mean that if that patient's not healed, that means that there's their karma is saying, no, you cannot be healed this time, or you cannot be healed at all, you have to go through this experience, as opposed to being relieved of it? And why would that be the case?
Yeah, I mean, it's either or. I mean, the person who's doing the healing, they may not be the right karmic vessel to allow that healing to take place. Or the person who's receiving the healing, it may not be time for them to receive the healing because they haven't learned their lesson. So it's a combination of things.
So then that leads to another question I have. Well, here you talk about positive love energy radiated and negative love attachment. You said positive love multiplies itself by 4 when faced by resistance of its target until it breaks through the resistance. So if I'm giving a target healing with the most loving and compassionate frame of mind that I can invoke, and that target is not healed, does that mean that healing energy is resisted, and it will continue going back to the target until they are healed, or it's just dissipated completely? Like, what happens to that energy that's given to that patient?
Well, first of all, you have to be very advanced to tap into the type of love energy that builds that what do I want to call it? That 4 factor, right? Now, once you tap into that energy, you will know how to apply it and when not to apply it. Because, in other words, if we were able to tap into this love energy to the level where it begins to produce this 4 factor where it goes to the target resists it, it multiplies itself by 4 and then return until the target receives the energy. We'll know what to apply, when to apply that, and when not to apply that, or when it's not in the best interest to apply that. Because what happens with that type of love energy is that something have to give. So let's say if that person karmically is not in a position to be finished with the lesson of that particular pain or suffering, then that person will surely die from receiving that energy.
Mm-hmm.
So your love energy can kill them.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So you have to be at a level of enlightenment in order to manipulate that type of energy. So let's say the person receives it, they're in a position to receive it, then they are healed and they are risen and enlightened above that pain, above that suffering, so they can move on. So that's the difference.
Mm-hmm.
You often find people that study healing and whatever, and that's why they look to educate the patient and have the patient to understand that there's alternative methods to healing. But once they get their mind right, they can move on to any level of healing they want to move on to.
There's a question here. It says, in order to give healing, would you say that a certain amount of karma would need to be burned up for the healing to work?
That's what healing do. Healing helps to burn up negative karma. Anyone can give healing. So don't make that an excuse. Anyone can give healing.
I guess if you have any questions, feel free to ask them in either chat or raise your hand. Either one is fine. Even though we're going through the handouts, it's still an open discussion, so you're free to ask any questions you may have. Okay, and then so now you go on to describe what negative love or attachment is. And that is, a negative basic love manifests itself as attachment, which multiplies man's desires, and thereby creates the actions of greed, possession, jealousy, anger, and hate. Now, it seems kind of counterintuitive to refer to emotions or actions like jealousy, anger, and hate as negative love.
Well,
and yet,
I mean, what do we call it?
right. Mm-hmm. But now you mentioned earlier that that positive love energy capable of multiplying itself is very, well, most of us are not capable of manifesting that. But yet the vast majority, I would say the vast majority of love that we are capable, or we do see at least around us, is a negative basic type of love. So how would we then, let's say in our relationships, in our interaction with our family, how would we demonstrate a more positive love?
I mean, we got to move towards selfless type actions. And those selfless type actions burn up these negative impurities, which produce what the yogis call those 21 impurities, which is greed, selfishness, jealousy, anger, hatred, malice, envy, all those things. You know, it drags us down. It creates blockages within the auric pathways to not allow us to ascend to a higher level of consciousness. Once we give up those things, then we can tap into the higher levels of energy.
Would you say here negative love manifests as attachment? Could we have things like, you know, relationships or even marriage without some sort of attachment?
Yes, you can.
And what would that look like?
I couldn't tell you how it looks like, but it exists. You know, I couldn't give you a definite description because it comes in all types of description. But you don't have to possess a person in order to love a person. You can love that person without all the, without all those attachments. I mean, most people want to be loved like that. You don't, a lot of these relationships, the man try to rule over the woman, or the woman try to rule over the man. And true a true relationship, you don't rule over anyone. You don't own anyone. They have the right to do whatever they want to do. It's up to them how much commitment they give you. You know, so, you know, but if you talk to someone, they'll say, well, they committed their whole life to me. Well, then it's up to them to live up to that commitment. You don't have to chase them down for that commitment. If you are, then something's wrong.
Okay, Veronica, I see your hand is raised. Go ahead and ask your question.
Thank you. Just when it comes into the negative love, just something that I thought is it when you look at it like a need for anything, a need for a person's affection, a need for a item, like if somebody is fixated on collecting things, is that where love can be distorted? Because it's still like when you look at attachment, you are in closeness or you want to be, but is it kind of like that separation from the need of needing to be with someone else to feel that love still exists between the two? Is that where it gets distorted or it can turn into?
Yes, I do think that's what it is. That's a good description. And let me say something about that. Love is an energy of preservation, but we get it distorted, as you just stated, is that we turn preservation mean that I'm going to feed you the necessary energy to keep you into existence. The way the earth does us, the way the sun does us, the way the moon does us. But when they get on this basic level, we say, well, I'm going to feed you, but I'm going to own you too. Mm-hmm. I'm going to attach myself to you, and you can't go nowhere except for where I tell you to go. And we exhibit that when we take we find a statue or piece of artwork that we love, we take it and we stick it somewhere, and we don't let anything come near it. And then we try to exhibit that same type of love to our mates, and that's wrong. You need to let them grow and live and express themselves the way they want to. You know, and you know, you get some people say, "Oh, that's just too liberal or too," you know, they try to name, but no, it's not. It's giving someone the freedom to grow and express themselves, because no one's going to grow in the same pattern. No one's going to express themselves in the same pattern. So eventually, they will find their way if their desire, and everyone's desire is to get better. So eventually, they're going to find their way. It may not be your way, mm-hmm. but eventually they're going to grow and they're going to find their way.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
A question from the chat. Am I wrong to think there is a hidden agenda to keep mankind asleep? And if I'm not, then why would there be such an agenda?
Well, you know, we have to stop thinking like that, in my opinion. And like I said, action and reaction is opposite but equal. Every situation we find ourselves in, we put ourselves in that situation. It's some type of decision that we made to allow us to be here, because we're learning some type of lesson. So it's no greater power putting us here, except for the greater power of ourselves. it's a hard lesson to learn or to realize, but that's what it is.
Okay, some good questions. Any additional questions? All right, so I think we've just about covered everything in this page. As the next open discussion, we can move into page 3, which is karmic energies of the auric body. And I think we'll spend maybe a couple classes here. Is there any significance to speaking over water? The question, actually, do we have that here? No, there's a table. We have a chart about that, diagram about that, where it shows the effects on water when
That's
you
a whole
pray over
class.
it. Yeah, yeah.
That's a whole nother class. There should be some old notes somewhere on that, right?
Yeah, I was looking at it the other day. You have a couple of diagrams with pictures of it showing water that's been prayed over or water that's been, some words like hate, I hate you, were said over it. Yeah.
Yeah, you could speak over water and then drink it or give it to someone else to drink, and it can help them or hurt them. But there's a, and then there's it's a fairly good book. It was written over 100 years ago by the students of Yogi Ramacharaka. It's called Practical Water Cures. I think we have that free online.
I think so too. On our mysticknowledge.org website. I think it's there. And there's in an ebook page, there's a section dedicated to Yogi Ramacharaka.
Yeah, we have it online, right?
I believe so. I believe that book is there.
Yeah. If not, Veronica, you can email me and I send you a copy of it.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, there's someone in the chat saying, I'm experiencing karmic entanglement. Someone in my living space always sees the negative in all things around us, which in turn is causing things to break down or cause negative outcomes. Is my lesson about having more patience, or should I be neutralizing the negativity?
I don't know what they mean by that. What do they mean by that?
Charlie, can you explain what do you mean by the lesson?
Is someone around them constantly bringing up negative things or carrying on negatively? That's what we're talking about.
I guess it's someone in my living space always sees the negative in everything. And
well, I mean, with people, you have to choose well, you know. I was kind of fortunate. I was raised by parents that taught me all this stuff from a child. So I distance myself from those people who exhibit those type of characteristics. If they exhibit type of characteristics that I was familiar with that will bring about negative results around me, I refuse to be around them. And I would tell them, I would actually tell them that I couldn't be with them until they can take care of that type of action. So, I mean, if that's what you're talking about. I found that was the best way to get people from around you that exhibit those type of negative traits. But you have people they just have a lot of drama going on in their lives. They might be good people, but they attract the drama, and you have to. If you want to be a party to that, then go ahead. But in most cases, it's going to weigh you down. You know, you want to help them, you can pray for them and try to get them understanding so that they can stop going through the drama.
Are there any, I guess, final questions before we close out today's open discussion? All right. So again, that's the basic laws of karma worksheet, or diagram, sorry. The next open discussion, next class, we'll go over karmic energies of the auric body. So if you can, please review at least this page and have questions ready for our next open discussion. There's a lot of information here, and many of the questions we have gotten in the past relate to information through all the diagrams in this handout, but specifically to this one as well. You know, next time we'll look at some of the stored and released some scars, what that means, and their karmic implications. Okay, so if there are no further questions, we'll go out and close with our prayer. Also, I wanted to ask you guys if you'd like to open each class with a prayer. There's another prayer that we have. I actually do it by myself. Like before class, I'll recite the prayer for the spiritual workers and then open up the class. But if that's something you guys would like to do as well, I can add that to the opening of our class. We'll open with that prayer, and then the closing of class will close with the New Lord's Prayer. So let me know what you guys think, and that could be something we add on as well. Okay, so any final questions? Okay, great. Okay, great. So a lot of you like that idea. The next class will open up with a prayer for the spiritual workers. I'll put it up in the same way that we do with this one. And then we'll go into our questioning session. Okay, great. The New Lord's Prayer. O divine and wondrous Spirit, O everlasting Lord of hosts, send forth now through me thy great and lasting power. Allow me, Almighty God, the lasting privilege of radiating to all the world thy great love, so that those who suffer may be given the power and energy to rise above their weaknesses. Almighty God, in great humility do I ask you to send forth your power to give to me this great lasting privilege of being a channel, so that my suffering brothers may be helped and guided and healed and lifted into thy light, so that they who know not may look up and in doing so receive to their higher selves your divine counsel. Almighty God, this day have you granted me a divine privilege. I ask you now to give to me the strength so that never again will I turn from my inner vision of you. Oh, great peace, great peace, great peace. In praise of your greatness, O God, doth my soul sing. Grant it energy to sing on forever and forever. All right, everybody, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, and we'll see you next time. Have a wonderful week.